You are live with the App Show. Mike Agerbo here with my good friend John Beeler. We've got a pretty cool, interesting show today. Samsung had a big reveal or announcement this week on a whole bunch of new cool tech, everything from smartphones to tablets to wearables and even a new folding phone. And we'll be talking with Ted Kritsonos out of Toronto about our first impressions on all of that. Some interesting gear. And of course, we'll also be talking about our contest. We'll be giving away a Samsung Galaxy A71 smartphone this month. So we'll give details on how you can enter to win that as well. John, I thought we'd start off the app news just quickly talking about the Canada COVID app. Have you downloaded it yet?
I was one of the beta testers, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Work in BC yet, though?
Well, it kind of does, though, and this is the kind of the confusing thing about the app. The app itself is meant to alert you if you've been in contact with someone that has been exposed to COVID, but it also is meant to track your interactions with other people that have the app running in the background. And that function does work in BC. What doesn't work in BC, and currently, as of this recording, only in Ontario does it actually have the ability for you as an infected COVID patient to register that you've been infected, which would then match up other people that you would have been in contact with. And that would have been information that the health authorities in your province would then use to figure out who to contact if that's the case. The big thing, though, that this particular app, it should be downloaded by everybody right now. It's very secure. We've had lots of guests on this show and on GetConnected about the privacy aspects of things. It's not logging your GPS. It's not, reading your emails or any of that kind of stuff. All it's doing is looking for other devices running the same app and logging a random number. And that random number is unique to you. And then basically it just sort of has this list of interactions so that if there is an infection detected, it will then alert you that you have been in contact. You should probably get a test and go from there. It doesn't tell you who infected you. It doesn't tell you any of that stuff because none of that stuff is collected. It's completely free, and it will currently just log in BC, in the rest of the country. Actually, it'll just log these interactions. It won't actually alert you for an infection unless you're in Ontario. But it's good to have this thing running. It will keep this interaction data for up to 15 days. And then, so if something does change, then you do have the ability to go in and see what it says to do. And basically, they're going to give you some information about you need to call your health authority, arrange a test, that type of thing, if there was someone in your bubble that was infected.
Well, we've got a great article up on our website, getconnectedmedia.com, if you want to find out more about it. Still no word yet in BC and Alberta and other provinces as to when it will be rolling out there. But it's probably a good thing to download it now anyway, just so that you are ready. When we come back from the break, we're talking with Ted Kritsonos all about the new Samsung gear that's going to be coming out in the next few weeks, including a watch that can measure your blood pressure. You're listening to the App Show here on the Chorus Radio Network. Back after this. You are back with the App Show. Mike Agerbo here with John Beeler. It's time to talk Samsung. They had a large unveiling this week. They do typically every August. They call it their Samsung Unpacked event. And they announced a lot of new tech goodies, including a new Samsung Note smartphone. We'll be talking about that and also some of the other cool devices, new watch, new earbuds, new tablet, and even a new folding phone throughout this show here. Ted, we've got Ted Kritsonos on the line. He is a tech journalist out of Toronto and had a chance to watch the PR event as well. Thanks for joining us, Ted.
Good to be with you guys.
Ted, overall thoughts before we get into the Samsung Note20. It's kind of an unusual year. Typically, we're actually all down in the U.S., typically in New York or California to check these things out in person. Now it's all gone virtual. Did the event wow you? Was there a lot of cool stuff? Thoughts?
Well, it wasn't an unusual year for leaks, that's for sure. Pretty much every product, had a multitude, like a litany of leaks. So some of the leaks were very accurate, ultimately, when it came to what the devices actually had, whereas others maybe were a little bit off. But yeah, at this point, Samsung, we know the formula, right? So you launch the S line phones in February, and then you launch the Note line in August. And those two particular phones always borrow from each other. So, and we've seen a little bit of that even with the Note 20 and the Note 20 Plus, sorry, Note 20 Ultra, where not only the nomenclature is similar, right, because we've gone with Ultra, but also even some of the features have kind of carried over from the S20 over to the Note. And yeah, I'm not surprised that they also launched these other products alongside, because I think they're trying to make the case that they have an ecosystem now that really, really works, and that, hey, if you're not part of it, you're missing out on how great all these things work together.
And they have a new color scheme for these devices too.
Oh,
Mystic Bronze.
Bronze. I mean, that's going to be a popular color. I mean, to their credit, like, I know how they, they're always a little bit, they always gush over their own, colors and everything, but I can see that one being very popular. Like, I think it'll be like what rose gold was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It'll be the same kind of thing. A lot of people will be into it. There'll be influencers taking photos of it ad nauseum. And there'll be all kinds of stuff like that going on. But you can see though that they seem to be going with neutral colors or shades, right? Like I thought that they might go with something a little bright. Like remember last year with the iridescent style that they went with the Note 10? They didn't do that this time. And I don't know why, but, because they were very big on that last year, but they didn't do it this year. So it looks like, bronze is like gold now.
Well, let's talk about the new Note smartphone. And again, for the listeners out there, they've got a very strong fan base for this particular smartphone because it is large, kind of almost in the tablet territory. But it also comes with a special S Pen, a stylus that's very advanced and can do a lot of things. So what are we seeing new this year, Ted, that people would care about?
Well, one thing to point out first is that you remember how the Note used to be the bigger phone than the S? Yeah, that's no longer the case. They are the same screen sizes as the S20 phones are. So the S20 Ultra was 6.9, Note 20 Ultra 6.9, S20 Plus 6.7, Note 10, Note 20 6.7. So
they can't get really any bigger.
Well, this is Samsung we're talking about. They can always try to go bigger. So, but the pen has always been the differentiating factor between the two, because it changes the way you use the phone, right? Especially when you actually use the pen. Now, we know in the last 2 years, the pen, they primarily pushed it as a tool away from the screen, right? So gestures, controls, like, hey, let's, we can control the camera and take a selfie, things like that. What I like that they did this time was they, I know it's so cliche in business and especially in tech, going back to basics, but they at least focused on making the writing, just the process of writing on the screen feel a lot more fluid. That reduced latency, I thought, is actually going to be a big deal.
They had quite an extended video with an engineer talking about one of the biggest complaints people were getting is that when they're drawing on glass, there's this lag that's perceptible, and it can really take you out of that moment of, whether you're an artist drawing something or you're taking notes, that kind of thing. And so they spent a lot of time during the event talking about how they've addressed that, and they've got some pretty clever ways of doing it with artificial intelligence, guessing where your pen's going to go next and all this type of thing to make that latency reduced.
Right. And now, of course, we don't have the device, as we're talking right now, we don't have a device with us to actually try it, but it is one of the features that I'm definitely looking to try, because that would be a huge change. I mean, you imagine, for the most part, I always tell people, you don't need to upgrade year over year. So if you have a Note 10, you wouldn't need to upgrade a Note 10. Now, in this case, if that person is writing a lot on the screen, that feature alone might be a reason to want to upgrade.
I would also add to that, though, one of the other features that they announced is the 120 hertz refresh rate on these devices, which will further reduce that lag and latency. And they look pretty slick in the videos that I was watching today.
They did. Yeah, they did. And you're right. I mean, that was something I was going to bring up too, is that when you add the refresh rate to that, it's almost like you have a variable that comes into play that also reduces the amount of time that the software, because as they explained in the video, what happens when the pen touches the screen, software is basically is interpreting that contact, and it's then basically drawing the line. Like it's forming the line as you're drawing it. Now, if you reduce all that, both with the AI and on top of that with the refresh rate, presumably, again, we haven't tested it right now as of yet, but presumably you would have something even closer to actual pen to paper. I mean, you'll never get there 100% in my opinion, but if you can get really close, you can change the way people feel when they actually write on the screen. And that's what the Note is. I mean, without that, what's the point of getting the phone? You just get it for money.
And it's definitely a learned behavior. Like we all learned how to type on glass as well, right? So
sure.
Same thing with writing, especially if you're an artist that's used to using that as an extension of yourself and your art form and that type of thing.
Oh yeah, and note taking as well. I think as journalists, for us, note taking is obviously important. And even though we try to type things out, oftentimes, if you can jot down a note with greater accuracy, and especially with Samsung's ability to also turn that writing into text, which is, that's not a new feature. They've had that for a while. And I know that you probably saw in the video, they had the ability to actually move the text.
Yeah.
So you have an annotation on a PDF, or someone has written something, and then like they move it sort of, like on a different part of the page. I thought that was pretty cool.
Is the note taking though still kind of a niche thing? I mean, not everyone gets the Note smartphones or buys them, and they're probably one of the primarily big smartphones out there that really take advantage of that. Do you think it'll ever really take off? Will people use their smartphones to actually write notes down?
I don't know. I mean, it depends, because again, the idea behind it over time has been to basically draw on anything.
Yeah.
So whether it's like a screenshot of something, whether you want to doodle on somebody's face, social media, there are all kinds of different uses that you could, use on that. Samsung has always tried to play up the idea of creativity related to the pen. And last year, I remember, and you guys would remember too, they played up the whole AR features, right? The augmented reality features that were associated with the pen. Notice they didn't mention that this year. Because
they kind of did though. It was like fine print in the press release, but basically AR stuff is coming. Once these devices are more widely available, they'll have more to say about that.
Okay,
but
that'll be interesting.
But you're right, because that was something that we all took away from the event last year. That was a really big deal, and a very big focal point for the event was these features.
Well, it was a focal. Sorry to interrupt, John. It was a focal point for Samsung, well, not for me.
No,
For me, I knew that feature was going to be a dud, personally, because I just didn't see how it would work. It would work very well the way it was, and it was more gimmicky to me than anything else. And they wisely stayed away from that with this particular keynote, because they focused more on the pen actually doing the basics properly of just writing on the screen. So at this point, like whatever it is you're actually going to draw or write on the screen, it's going to be, pretty much on the nose, right?
But I think going back to your original comment about going back to basics, it seems like whether it's Samsung, Apple, or whomever, they'll do one big, here's a new feature you can't live without, and then next year they'll fix all the problems that were, introduced with those features or things like, or just basically clean house and fix things up. And this feels like that kind of a release as far as what they've done. It's incremental, but they've really spent a lot of time on making what's there already better.
Well, and if you think about it, it's kind of what they had to do, because when you look at the rest of the device, it's not dramatically different from the S20. The camera array in the rear is almost exactly the same as the S20 phones. Now, they didn't go with the 48 megapixel telephoto lens. They went with the 12 megapixel. The good news with that is that low light shots should be better because of it. But the other thing is that, they didn't really say anything, but the space zoom is gone. That 100 times space zoom, remember that from the S20 Ultra? Gone. And so it should have been, because it was a useless feature. But
gone like the comet.
Yeah, it gone. Yeah, and understandably, because it wasn't a great feature anyway. Like they hyped it at the time in February, and anyway, that's another story. But the phone for the most part is very similar to the S20. Yes, it's a Snapdragon 865 Plus processor, so you do get a little bit better performance that way. And then you have the camera, you've got the size is very similar, although I don't know if you guys found this. I found it interesting that the Note 20 has a flat screen. The Note 20 Ultra has curved edges. I thought that was interesting.
That's what the Ultra gives you.
Yeah, I thought that
Curves.
was interesting. Well, they should go flat. Samsung just go flat at this point. Okay, forget the curved edges. But again, that's another story.
So says Ted.
But I'll tell you though, one thing that I think is cool that they did talk about, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to be on this phone, is the gaming element.
Yes, the Xbox partnership.
Yeah, the Xbox partnership, I think, is going to be, if it works, is going to be pretty cool. I mean, the way that they showed, you've got the Xbox controller, the phone's on its, it's in its holster there, and you're pairing the controller with the phone. You're playing some pretty good games too. I mean, graphics intensive games.
Well, the nice thing is they have this Game Pass Ultimate. So it's a subscription service from Microsoft. If you have an Xbox, you already are familiar with it. But the idea is that you can play over 100 games, and they're all streamed from the cloud.
That's right.
So this is basically their competition for like Google Stadia.
Google Stadia, and even to some degree, even Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
Because it's making the case that, hey, if you want to play, these casual arcade games with the fruit company, we've got something that's like console level right here, in the palms of your hands. And so I think that feature, although you could argue it's a bit niche because it's aimed at people who want to play games, and not everybody wants to do that. It is still a pretty interesting feature.
Yeah. I agree to a point, but I think that the gaming aspect, mobile gaming, is huge, but generally not for the crowd that's going to be buying the Note.
Yeah. That's a very good way of putting it. Is that it's an interesting device to debut this, but that's why I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to take. Will it take well with Note 20 owners? Will it be a bigger thing? Will we see an expansion of this in some way later on and leading up to whatever the Galaxy S phone that comes out in early 2021? That I think is going to be interesting, and I think we may even see more of these types of gaming partnerships with other brands as well. I mean, I imagine now Sony makes phones too, but at some point, I mean, PlayStation on a phone would be pretty cool also.
We're going to have to take a break, Ted. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the wearables that they announced. A new watch that can actually measure your blood pressure, and some new earbuds that look like little beans that go in your ear. And later on, we'll talk about the new folding phone. Will they get it right this time? Well, we'll get Ted's thoughts on that too. You're listening to the App Show here on the Chorus Radio Network. Back after this. You are back with the App Show, talking all things Samsung this week on the program. They had a big reveal about all the new gear that they're bringing out here in the back-to-school fall timeframe. They've got the new Note phones. We chatted a bit about that. Want to talk about some of the wearables now. They've got some new earbuds and a new watch. We've got Ted Kritsonos with us on the line. He's a tech journalist out of Toronto, probably one of our favorite ones. And I want to thank you again for joining us, Ted.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Let's talk about the wearables, the watch. I mean, this category is getting bigger and bigger. There's kind of a few main players out there right now. Obviously, Apple has dominated the space with their Apple Watch. There's still Fitbit that is now owned by Google, and Samsung keeps coming out with new watches every year. Have they taken it up a notch this year, Ted?
We don't know yet. I mean, that's the short answer, because now the last couple of years, they focused more on the active side. Well, I should say last year, like 2019 was really the year where Samsung tried to play up the active watch. So the Galaxy Watch Active, there were two versions of it that came out last year. This time around, now they've come out with the Galaxy Watch 3, which is the more, sort of luxury, elegant model for everyday, wear. Like, you're not really necessarily taking this to the gym. So it's a nice looking watch from what I can see in the photos and the renders. I haven't had one yet, but I will be getting one shortly. And the thing that, the thing that always worked for me with Samsung's watches is that physical rotating bezel. It changes completely how you navigate the interface, and it works. Even though Samsung's watches run on Tizen, which is Samsung's own operating system, it just works. It's one of those marriages of hardware and software that when it works, it really feels like intuitive and natural. My one thing, though, is I'm very curious about the app situation. This is the one thing that Samsung has struggled with on its device, on its watches, smartwatches. They played up the fact there's 80,000 watch faces, but there's not 80,000 apps. And at times it feels like there's not even 800 apps that are available on the watch. So that's where I think, they need to really kind of up their game and make it so that the apps that people are using on their phones can apply to the watches as well. But what do you guys think?
I like the look of them. I do love the round face of watches. It's something I miss. I mean, I do love. I use an Apple Watch, and it marries really well with the whole Apple ecosystem. So I'm always curious as to can Samsung get that same type of technology and software marriage on here. I was interested in some of the specs. Obviously, they measure heart rate and all that, but the blood pressure monitor capabilities seemed interesting to me.
Okay, let me talk about that. Okay, because that's not new. They've had that before in their watches. Now, at the time, though, it didn't work very well, and part of the reason was because it was a partnership with an organization in the United States, and you were essentially part of almost like a trial. Like the way it was, the way it worked, like you were part of this like trial group. So you need to kind of like sign your life away in order to be part of it. And even when when you tried to use it, it didn't necessarily work really well. So I don't know what they would have changed or what it is like now. I will be curious to try and test it out to see, because at the time it was half baked at the time when they had it. The other thing, too, is with the blood pressure monitor and the ECG, so there's an electrocardiogram apparently in this smartwatch, but as we all know, that requires approval from regulators, right? So Health Canada has to approve that. And, excuse me, and as far as I'm aware, they haven't. The FDA did in the United States, but I don't know that they've had the same approval here in Canada. So the blood pressure monitor, but especially the ECG, I don't know what those features are going to be like in Canada, when they're going to arrive, or if they're going to be the same as they would be in the US.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out on that. Let's talk about the Galaxy Buds Live. So this is kind of new earbuds that they've come out with. They almost look like Secret Service agent type beans that you'd stick in your ears. They come in some fancy colors as well. What are we looking here that's different?
Well, for one thing, there's nothing going into your ear canal, right? So unlike earbuds that actually protrude and nestle into your ear canal, these do not do that. What these are doing is they're covering the ear canal where the driver, so basically with the speaker driver, is pointing inside. It's almost like a concave effect where basically the sound comes in and it just swirls and bounces around within the canal. I haven't listened to them yet, so I don't know exactly how that works, but with 12 millimeter drivers, you've got power under the hood, right? I mean, a lot of earbuds have 6 millimeter drivers. You got some with 8, and then you have the odd one with 10. But for 12 millimeter drivers, that's pretty powerful. So I have to think that what they've tried to do is to create enough strength and enough audio output so that you don't feel like the sound is bleeding out from your ears, because that's always been the issue with true wireless earbuds, is that if you don't get a tight enough seal, the first thing you lose is bass, right? The low end of the audio spectrum always suffers as a result of that, and you end up with a sound that's a little bit too treble or tinny. And they're saying that that's not the case here, that they've got active noise cancellation on top of that, right? So if you want to block out that ambient noise, you can block out up to 97% of it. But as we know, ANC typically works best with very consistent, monotonous sounds.
Like on an airplane or something.
Yeah, plane, bus, train, stuff like that. Whereas like random chatter and stuff, it won't do as well with that kind of noise. But it is a very unique design, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to fit everybody's ears, because that's the other issue, right? Is how comfortable they're going to be.
They almost look like kind of like hearing aids, in the sense that they really disappear into your ear.
Yeah.
Nothing's protruding. So yeah, definitely the fit's going to be a concern, I think, for people. They're claiming 6 hours of battery life per charge, with 21 hours possible with the charging case, and that a 5-minute charge will give you 1 hour of playback on those buds as well.
Yeah, the fast charging. Yeah,
sounds good.
that sounds good. The fast charging is good. The 6 hours, you're not going to get 6 hours. I'm calling it right now. It's going to be less than that because that's typically what always happens with true wireless earbuds. Because again, that's the fine print, and assuming they even put the fine print in this case, almost always, whenever they rate battery life on true wireless earbuds, it's based on 50% volume. Okay, so that's default. Most people, I would argue, don't necessarily listen at that volume, especially if they're out with noise. And then it doesn't take into account how much ANC eats up of the battery too. So I'm going to say it's going to be 5 or less, more than likely in most cases, which is not bad, but it's not amazing. But again, the fit, even if it is comfortable, you don't have a lot of wiggle room to move these things around. So it's not like you can kind of find a way, or use a different ear tip or something to try and get that tighter fit. Once you put them in there, I think that's it. I don't think you can really move them around much after that.
Either it fits or it doesn't, is what you're saying, Ted.
Pretty much.
Okay, we're going to have to take another break. When we come back, we want to chat about a couple more devices that they launched, a new super tablet and a folding phone. Version 2. Did they get it right this time? We'll find out. You're listening to the App Show here on the Chorus Radio Network. Back after this. You're back with the App Show. Mike and John here. Been heavy into the Samsung stuff on this particular show. They had a big event this week, so we're just kind of covering some of the gear that they announced. They announced some new smartphones, the Note20 line. They've got the little special S Pen in there so you can take notes with them. Also a few new wearables, some new ear buds that don't have an ear tip. They just kind of squish into your ear. We'll get a chance to try those out over the next 2 weeks, we hope. And a new smartwatch as well. You can check out our website, GetConnectedMedia.com. We've got some more info up there about that if you want to find out more and some of the pricing for this stuff as well. On the line, we've got Ted Kritsonos. He's hanging out in Toronto. He's a tech journalist that had a chance to look over the event this week, and we're talking about some of our thoughts on that. Let's talk about the tablets that they launched. Have they made much of a dent in the tablet space, Ted?
I'm not sure they have, but they seem to want to because they're still at it, right? I mean, this is a company that launches 2 or 3 of them a year. So on the one hand, they don't have much competition on the Android side because at this point, when you're thinking of Android tablets, you're not really seeing a whole lot of competition there. It's really Samsung, and then Amazon's kind of doing its own thing with its Fire tablets, but that's like a fork of Android. It's not fully an Android tablet. And then not much other than that, right? It's just tumbleweeds after that. So basically, you have you're leading in this one part of the market, but how many people are buying them, I'm not sure. Now, with these 2 particular tablets, we got the Tab S7 and the Tab S7 Plus, 11 inches or 12.4 inches. So these are pretty big in terms of tablet sizes. Tablets aren't always that big, but they are clearly seeing these as productivity devices. Do you think
laptop replacements in some cases?
Well, they didn't go that far, right? So they were careful not to say that, because if you start positioning the tablet as a laptop replacement, then the expectations start to go up. So they were careful not to say that. And instead, they used other language, I can getting things done, or, tasks and productivity, a lot of buzzwords. They used a lot of buzzwords throughout the keynote to kind of, and then of course the presentation itself lended itself to showing that, hey, it's very easy to get things done, and hey, you can integrate with the phone very easily. That actually was kind of a cool feature. I think you guys caught that too, where they basically tied the phone to both a computer and then also to the tablet as well. They've done that before, where you could answer a phone call with the tablet. But to me, though, the big thing is the pen. I mean, I go back to the S Pen again, because if you have the same exact low latency that they pulled off with the Note20, and you're applying it now to these 2 Tab S7 tablets, you've got something that I would argue it's even easier to write on this because of the screen real estate you're dealing with. I mean, if you want to draw something or you want to do anything artistic, now you presumably have a pen that will feel even more like putting a pencil or a brush to a canvas. So it'll be interesting to see if people take to it, though, because Samsung's also pricing these up like an iPad. I mean, it's not like you're getting these things at some sort of a budget price. That you can only get them at a premium price, and I don't know that people are willing to pay that. We're going to have to wait and see.
Are they going after the iPad Pro market, kind of the higher end iPads? These ones have the magnetic keyboards and stuff as well, right?
Yeah, I think to some degree they're going after the iPad because they also played up, Samsung DeX, which of course is their desktop OS that you can sort of run off either a phone or within the tablet itself. So you can do that too.
Which is now wireless, which is nice.
Which is now wireless, which is very cool as well. So this is not the first time Samsung has done this. I mean, I remember the Tab S6 last year, same thing, productivity. And I reviewed it and I wasn't sold on it being really like a productivity device that I could use primarily as one. As a support device, maybe. But they're making the case this time that, hey, this could be something that you can play around with, but also work with. And I think the pen helps make that case. But I don't know if in practice it'll be like that.
We're giving away a Samsung smartphone this month. We're going to a few of them, actually. The Samsung A71. If you want a chance to enter one of these contests, go to our website, GetConnectedMedia.com. If you hit the newsletter tab, if you subscribe, you are entered to win the Samsung Galaxy A71, and you're entered into all of the contests happening this year. So it's a good deal. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to keep Ted on the line, and we'll talk about the new Samsung Galaxy Fold 2. Is it done right this time? We'll find out. Back after this. You're back with the App Show. Mike and John here. We've got Ted Krotsonos, our favorite tech journalist from Toronto, talking all about Samsung gear this week. They just announced a bunch of new stuff. And finally, Ted, the Samsung Galaxy Fold 2. I think a lot of us are aware some of the issues they had with the first one. Obviously an engineering marvel, but had problems with the screen peeling off and stuff getting caught in the hinges.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited to see this new one. Any thoughts, Ted? Initial thoughts. We have to get our hands on one first, but
yeah, I got to get our hands on one first. It's going to be prohibitively expensive. That much is for sure. I can't see it being less than $2,500 when it comes out. They haven't announced pricing, but that's my guess. What I found interesting was that they used glass as opposed to plastic this time for the screen. So they used glass that apparently is thinner than a human hair. Very interesting, and of course it's layered. Yeah, you didn't catch that part? They mentioned that. And like that is layered basically, but that the top layer is like so thin that it's like a human hair or thinner than that even. And that it can handle more pressure, it can handle more folding, and that the hinge is better. And of course they got rid of that gap. You guys remember the first one when you closed it, right where the hinge was, there was that little air pocket, right? Because it didn't close like a book completely. Whereas this one apparently does. So from a form factor perspective, like from a design perspective, they seem to have changed some of those things. 7.4-inch screen when it opens up. So
they got rid of the tiny little window on the front. And
yeah,
it's a full size 6.2 inch.
Full size 6 points. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they went with the full size. You got a front facing camera there, front facing camera when it folds out too. 7.4 inches, so only marginally bigger than the other one was. I did not catch the resolution of the screen. I don't know if it's the same or if it's any different, but it looks to me like this is a similar device than the first one, but more like a corrective device from the first one.
Yeah.
So get your wallet ready, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
This will be a few $1,000s, and we're looking forward to getting our hands on one of those. Don't forget to enter our contest here on the App Show, GetConnectedMedia.com. Hit the newsletter tab, and you can enter to win there. We're giving away a Samsung Galaxy A71 smartphone worth $550. Ted, as always, a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Likewise, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me.
Want to thank the rest of the folks that helped put the show together. Obviously, John, my co-host, and Christina, our producer, and the rest of the gang back at the ranch. always visit our website, getconnectedmedia.com. We've got our audio and video blogs up there, and lots of great how-to articles and videos, product reviews, and so much more. And of course, the contests. We will see you again next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. And you know that little bell icon? Hit that and you'll be notified every time we post a new video. And comment. The more comments and the more likes and subscriptions we get, the more videos we can make.